Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our info session for the fifth year of the Executive Residency Program, supported by the RBC Foundation and Telefilm Canada, collaborative partners Bell Media and Cineplex, and community partner BIPOC TV and Film.
Et bonjour à toutes et à tous et merci de nous rejoindre ici pour cette séance d'information. Le programme de mentorat pour les leaders de demain, qui en est à sa cinquième année, est soutenu par RBC Fondation et Téléfilm Canada et présenté en collaboration avec Bell Media et Cineplex et notre partenaire communautaire BIPOC TV et Film.
Before we begin, we want to start by acknowledging that we are all speaking from the traditional territory of many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. Personally, I am located in Toronto, or Takaranto, which is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto, or Takaranto, is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. The Canadian Academy supports and promotes the narrative sovereignty of all Indigenous peoples. We recognize all First Peoples who were here before us, those who live with us now, and the 7 generations to come. We encourage you to find out which traditional lands you reside on and to familiarize yourself with the longstanding history of that land and your place in that history. Following in the footsteps of Indigenous peoples, we strive to be responsible stewards of the land, to respect the cultures, ceremonies, and traditions of all who call it home, and commit ourselves to working in a spirit of truth and reconciliation to make a better future for all.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for our info session on the Exec Residency Program today. We're excited to share a lot of different information and resources about this program ahead of the deadline to apply. Just wanted to make a note up top that the info session today and the program will be primarily conducted in spoken English, and placements will take place in English dominant environments. Upon request, the program will accommodate translation to French whenever possible.
Donc, juste pour vous
Um,
informer que... Désolée Nancy, do you want to continue?
No, all good. Sorry, I think I forgot that I said I would say the whole slide. So all good. Go for it, Corley.
Ok. Donc, juste pour vous dire que la séance d'information et le programme se dérouleront en anglais majoritairement. Et les placements seront effectués aussi dans des environnements anglophones dans la majorité des cas. Le programme, par contre, offrira sur demande une traduction vers le français dans la mesure du possible.
Thanks so much, Corley. I think it messes with your head when you're driving the slides, so I claim that mistake. And for anyone who's looking for additional resources that are bilingual, all of our rules and regulations documents and FAQ documents that are visible on the website for the Exec Residency Program are fully bilingual documents. You can also look into the Academy YouTube channel, which has some of our previous info sessions. A lot of them at the beginning of this program were done in both spoken English and spoken French. And if you have any questions, always feel free to email us at programs@academy.ca. We're happy to respond to you in the official language of your choice.
Et donc, juste pour ajouter que les ressources supplémentaires sont par contre complètement bilingues. Vous trouverez les règlements du programme, mais aussi la foire aux questions, ainsi que les anciennes séances d'information que vous trouverez sur notre chaîne YouTube. Et bien sûr, si vous avez d'autres questions, vous pouvez toujours les poser dans la langue de votre choix et nous adresser un courriel à programs@academy.ca.
So, for those who are not familiar, the Executive Residency Program is a talent development program run by the Academy of Canadian Cinema and Television. Our organization strives to build lasting change in the Canadian industry by nurturing opportunities for creative and authentic storytelling. And so before we dive into the session today, we just want to introduce our team here on the call. So of course, we have Nancy, who is the Senior Manager of Talent Development Programs, who uses she, her pronouns in English, Elle in French. I'm, of course, Chris Chu. I use he, him pronouns in English and il in French. And I'm the Senior Coordinator of Membership and Talent Development. And we're joined by Coralie, who is, of course, joining us with all of the French translation here, with she, her pronouns in English and Elle in French, who is the Coordinator of Talent Development Programs here at the Canadian Academy. And so here's our agenda for today's session. We'll do some quick housekeeping off the top. Then we'll discuss more about what the Executive Residency Program is, who the advocates are for this year's program, and who is eligible to apply. We'll also cover how to complete your application online, the adjudication process, along with key dates of the program, before wrapping this up with the Q&A portion at the end. And before we move ahead, we'll have a Q&A portion at the end, like I just mentioned, for anyone to ask any questions. Please note that questions can be submitted in either English or French. All questions will be answered in English, and questions in French will also be answered in French. We ask that you please reserve any questions about your personal eligibility and/or personal application materials and send those to our team by email instead. And a recording of this info session will also be uploaded and available online, so if you miss anything, please don't fret. And I will pass it over to Corley.
Thank you, Chris. Donc, à la fin de cette session, vous aurez aussi l'occasion de poser vos questions à notre équipe en utilisant le bouton questions-réponses Q&A sur Zoom. Les questions peuvent être posées en anglais ou en français. L'équipe, cependant, répondra à toutes les questions en anglais et fournira également une traduction en français pour les questions qui ont été posées en français. Pour toute question concernant votre candidature personnelle, on vous demande par contre de nous contacter directement par courriel, encore une fois, programmes@academy.ca. Et aussi pour vous dire qu'un enregistrement de cette session sera téléchargé et disponible en ligne prochainement. All good, Nancy.
Thanks, Corley. I always have to hit like 5 buttons to both unmute and go to the next slide. So thanks everyone for bearing with me. We've had this program running for a couple of years now. So this info session, we're going to try to get through a lot of information, very streamlined about the program first, and try to dedicate as much time as possible to your questions for the majority of this session. So we'll give you a couple of key points of information about the program first. The Exec Residency is an initiative that we've dedicated to providing industry access for mid-career professionals who identify as Black, Indigenous, or people of color. And we hope that this helps influence a change in the next generation of executives and decision makers in our industry. This is an eight-month program that is national, so we accept applicants from across the country, and it matches our participants with high-level advocates such as VPs, executive producers, and development and production execs with our future leaders in this program. And hopefully that provides insight into how the creative and business decisions are made on an executive level and give the opportunity to develop participants' creative, business, and leadership skills and make more meaningful connections in the industry. So an overview of some of the facts of this program. This year, we're looking to take in 6 to 8 participants. The run of the program will last from June 2026 this year to February of 2027. And there are a couple major buckets of activities that we do as a part of this program. One of them is the one-on-one advocate placement connections. And then another part of it is the online group sessions that we hold with the entire cohort and with one guest speaker each group session. The topics for these sessions usually include something like project development, organizational governance, career trajectories of our guest speakers. We've also found a lot of success in introducing some sessions that have peer-to-peer mentorship qualities in this program. A lot of our folks come to this program with a lot of knowledge and industry experience of their own, so we want to leverage that for everyone in the cohort that year. As we mentioned previously, you can apply in either French or English, all good there. If you need any accessibility adjustments for your application, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll figure out what works best in that case. And just a reminder that there are no fees to apply for or participate in our program, totally free. Please apply.
Thank you, Nancy. And as already mentioned, this program pairs participants with executives who we call advocates in this program, and we're excited to share the names of this year's group. So starting from Bell Media, we have Manny Gronvelt, a director and executive producer, returning as an advocate for this year. And we're also thrilled to introduce Lauren McKinley, who is a development executive, who will be paired with Alexis McLaren, a production executive of original programming at Bell Media. From CBC, we have some returning advocates as well and some new additions this year. First, we have Sarah Adams, who's returning this year as the Director of Current Production Drama. Next, we're pleased to announce that we have Lisa Benedetto joining us this year as an executive in charge of Current Production Comedy, alongside returning advocate Melanie LaFan, who is an executive in charge of Current Production Comedy. We also have Barbara Mamabolo, who is returning as executive in charge of Current Production Drama, paired with our new advocate, Zach Markovici, who is an executive in charge of Development Drama at CBC. From Cineplex, we have Gurbani Marwa, who is joining us this year as Vice President of Theatrical Releasing and Film Buying, with returning advocate Thomas Santrum, who is the Senior Vice President, General Counsel, and Corporate Secretary at Cineplex. And from Counterfeit Pictures, we have Chris Kelly, the Director of Scripted Television, who will be joining us in the program this year. For more information on all of our returning advocates, please take a look at their full bios on our cohort page, as you'll be asked to select your top 3 choices to be paired with on your application.
Thanks so much, Chris. Really exciting slate of advocates that we have for this year. We'll quickly cover the program eligibility here. There are a couple things to keep in mind, and to make sure that you're eligible to apply for the program this year. We want to reiterate this program is designed to support members of the Black, Indigenous, and POC community. We ask for a minimum of 5 years of experience in the Canadian film, TV, media, screen industry, or equivalent experience. It's usually an asset to have experience developing a story, but it's not mandatory. We ask for at least one leadership position in any capacity or overseeing any team. This can be professional or a voluntary experience. And as you can see in a lot of our eligibility pieces here, we want to recognize that there are a lot of different ways that people can get to where they are in their career. So if you feel you have equivalent experience, feel free to apply. If you have questions about whether it's considered equivalent experience, feel free to contact us and we can always chat about that. Mentioning again that applications can be in either official language, but placements will be made in English dominant environments. And please ensure that if you're applying, you're a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident of Canada by the time that the program starts in summer of this year, and that you're 19 years of age or older by the start of the program.
So for how to apply, all applications must be completed through our online portal. That is academy.ca/programs/exec residency. You must have a Google account and there are no costs or fees to apply, as we've mentioned. Feel free to start your application and continue working on your submission over several sessions. The application does not need to be filled out all at once, and you can return to your SAFE profile at a later time. We recommend that candidates start their applications and take a look at the form before you email us with questions. We found that a lot of the inquiries that we get are clearer once you've had a chance to take a look through the portal itself. And for the application, you'll need to submit a CV or resume in PDF format and a professional bio. You'll also need to submit a letter of intent. We don't ask for any specific format here, but we encourage you to highlight why this program is a fit for you, where you are in your career right now. And we ask that all applicants also submit a 2 to 3 minute intro video. This answer that you give us should highlight one project or initiative that you've worked on that you are proud of and why. This can be a community or work project, doesn't need to be related to the screen-based industries at all. And this video doesn't require any production elements. You can just use your phone or your computer and record yourself sitting in front of it. This is your chance to speak and share how you present yourself in a speaking format. And we also ask that you include a summary of your professional skills. So feel free to name 2 to 3 skills at which you are most proficient in and that best represent your style of work. For each skill you list and share with us, we would also like to know how you've demonstrated these skills in practice as well. And in addition, there are some multiple text responses throughout the application that also ask you about your overall goals for the program and your career, just to give us a sense of what you want out of this program. And lastly, all applicants will also be required to provide the contact info for 2 references mentioned on the slides here.
Thanks so much, Chris. We'll talk briefly about adjudication. At this stage, our selection committee for this program is made up of a diverse group of industry professionals from this industry, including some of our community and collaborative partners, as well as our internal program staff. Deliberations and decisions scores are kept confidential throughout the process, and successful applicants for this program will be announced publicly via press release in summer of 2026 following the completion of the adjudication process. There are a couple of selection criteria that the committees look at to determine who makes the cohort every year. One of these things is strength of experience. Does this applicant have a track record of doing the work, growth in their field? Do they demonstrate a desire to continue to advance and build their skills? The benefit to the industry? Is there a perspective, potential of this person's skills for the future of this industry? We also look at the fit with the preferred advocate. So this is where Chris is speaking about ranking your advocate preferences. Please keep that in mind that that does play into your application. Fit with preferred advocate is pretty important for being paired with your advocate for that year. And like we mentioned, aptitude with story. If you have any experience with story, that is always an asset. if you have worked on any of those skills in the past there.
And now for some key dates. The application period has already begun and will remain open until 5 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, March 12th, 2026. The adjudication process continues through April, at which point shortlisted candidates will be contacted to conduct video interviews, leading to final decisions of the cohort in May, with the program beginning in June. And for any comments and questions related to the program guidelines, content of your online application, or technical difficulties with the applicant portal, please contact programs@academy.ca. And now, just before we begin our Q&A, we would like to remind you that we have all these additional resources that we've already mentioned that are all bilingual and available to you as reference while you prepare your application. So once again, that's the rules and regulations doc, the FAQs list, the previous info sessions that we've had on our YouTube, and also our email once again on the slide.
Et juste pour dire pour le français, donc avant de commencer à répondre à toutes vos questions, nous souhaitons juste vous rappeler que nous disposons de ressources supplémentaires, comme vous avez pu le voir, qui sont toutes bilingues et disponibles afin de vous aider à préparer votre dossier de candidature. Donc il y a les règlements du programme, la foire aux questions, les séances d'information précédentes qui sont sur YouTube, sur notre chaîne à Via Canadian Academy. Et enfin, vous pouvez toujours nous contacter par courriel à programmes@academy.ca.
And as a final reminder, before we begin our Q&A, please submit any general questions you have about the program in the Q&A chat here on Zoom. So please look for that button in either English or French. And like we mentioned, all questions will be answered in English and questions in French will also be answered in French. Please reserve questions about your personal eligibility or your personal application materials, and please send those to our team by email instead at programs@academy.ca once again. And we tend to receive a lot of questions, so please only submit your question once. This helps our team to avoid missing your question and to ensure that we've tried to answer everything. And like we mentioned before, if you happen to miss any portion of today's info session, a recording will be uploaded to our YouTube channel online. Sorry, excuse me. And if you have any additional questions, don't hesitate to contact us via email.
Donc, à titre de rappel, et avant de commencer à répondre à toutes vos questions, nous vous demandons de poser les questions générales sur le programme en utilisant le bouton à cet effet, Q&A sur Zoom. Les questions sont encore une fois, peuvent être posées en anglais ou en français. Toutes les questions seront répondues en anglais et celles qui sont posées en français obtiendront également une réponse en français. Pour toute question concernant votre candidature personnelle, on vous demande de nous contacter directement par email, par courriel, programmes@academy.ca. Et nous recevons, comme disait mon collègue Chris, beaucoup de questions. Donc, merci de ne soumettre votre question qu'une seule fois. Cela aide en fait notre équipe à rien rater et à s'assurer que toutes les questions soient bien traitées. Si vous manquez une partie de cette séance d'information, un enregistrement sera mis en ligne, comme on vous l'a dit, sur notre chaîne YouTube de Canadian Academy dans les prochains jours. Et encore une fois, n'hésitez pas à nous contacter par courriel si vous avez besoin.
Thanks so much, both of you. I can start with the first questions that we're starting to get in here. So feel free to keep submitting your questions as we talk. I also want to mention I think I see some hands up. For these info sessions, we prefer that your questions are in written Q&A form so that we can kind of run the show a little bit smoother on our side. So apologies for that. If you can send your written question, then we'll do our best to answer it on this info session. So I can take this first question here. Regarding eligibility, is there a limit to years of experience? What if someone's been working in a semi-leadership position, middle management, where they have some leadership, not full leadership, but have been doing that for more than 5 years? I think something we're going to say a lot today is that there are lots of different ways that people can be a good fit for this program. So most of the eligibility, like if you feel that you're still a good fit for this program, but you just about miss the cutoff in one direction or another, feel free to apply anyway if you think you're a good fit. And if you have questions that you want to run by us before you submit your application, always feel free to send us an email if your specific like numbers are just a little bit off here and there. For this specific question regarding experience in leadership, absolutely. If you have middle management experience or you're not like the CEO of your company, definitely welcome to apply. There's no limit. Like you can't be too experienced for the program, I would say. Um, and I think it all kind of depends on your goals. So if you can make it clear in your application why maybe you come from like a lot of leadership experience, but you think that being paired with this advocate is consistent with a different direction you want your career to go in, that makes a lot of sense in the application. If you feel you are just about going to get a lot of leadership experience, but you haven't had as much leadership experience as we've spoken to in the eligibility section, feel free to tell us what you've been working on in your career to get those opportunities. And again, they don't have to be professional, they can be within your community, they can be voluntary, and why that makes you a good fit to work with the advocates that you've selected in your application. So yeah, it's a little unsatisfying, but just tell us why it makes sense for you.
Thank you, Nancy. I can take the next question here. The question is this program remote? How does the schedule look like? And how much time can each candidate allocate to it on a weekly basis? So the program is 100% remote. It's a completely virtual program to make sure that anyone across the country can apply and fully participate in both the placement and our group programming. And for the schedule itself, with advocate placements at least, we recommend 2 hours a month. Usually one of the meetings kind of sitting in on a wider team meeting with your advocate in the department that they work in. And then the second 1 hour meeting of the month, usually being a one-on-one follow-up where you can follow up about what you've learned about and debrief about that experience you've had or any personal questions that you want to ask about your own projects that you're working on. And that's usually what we recommend for the advocate side. And of course, schedules are figured out on a uh, basis of you with your advocate. So if, for example, you're both busy 1 month and you have to meet another month, that is very flexible usually and depends on both of your schedules. And then in addition to the advocate placement, we also do group programming like we mentioned. So those are polled to our participants of each year. There's a little poll that comes up and we try to find a time where all of our participants are usually most available to get the most amount of people in one room together live on that session. And that usually is a 60 to 90-minute virtual session as well. So on top of that, you can figure out that that usually falls sometime in the workday, typically in the afternoon Eastern time. Hopefully that answers that question.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, we work really hard to try to make things work with our cohort every year. So, at the point where we bring folks into the program, we'll have lots of conversations about availability as well if any concerns on that front come up for you. So, no worries, we'll have those conversations. I'll quickly answer this next question here. If you're not able to apply for this year, can you apply in the next year for sure? This doesn't have to be your year if you think you want to like take a little bit more of a run up to applying for this program. Doesn't have to be right now. What we will mention is that all of our programs are evaluated on a yearly basis, so we might see some changes happen for future programming at the Academy. Just something to keep in mind there that all of the details are shifted and updated so we can best serve the industry every year. So at this moment, we're kind of focused on this year of the program, 2025, 2026, and then any future programs for next year, we'll announce them probably at the beginning of next year.
Amazing. I can take this next one. The question is asking if there's a stipend provided to participants to be a part of the residency. Yes, there is a stipend, a modest kind of honorarium, we call it, just to honor your time in the program and to respect the time that you'll be taking out of a full-time day job, for example, as some of our programming does take place during the work hours, and just to honor that and make sure that you are respected for your time in the program as well.
Yeah, having a little stipend is has we found that to be really important in this program, so really happy to continue to provide that wherever possible. I'm going to take this question here. What do we consider leadership experience? So is that like a producer, a writer, a director, an executive? This question asker works in a production company where they have a team that works below them, but it's not the head of the company, producer, EP by any means, and has their own sort of shoestring budget projects on the side. Yeah, for sure. Definitely not requiring any one of the EP titles at this point. Um, if you manage a team, we do consider that leadership experience. You can be middle management, like we mentioned. And you can also have leadership experience that looks kind of unconventional in the hierarchical structure. So if you're not directly like in charge of or the boss of anyone, that's also fine as long as you know you manage, like maybe you mentor folks on your team, you lead it, but you're not like the direct supervisor. This is a very valid form of developing your leadership skills. If you are also like an independent producer, obviously you're a leader in that sense as well, where you're like managing projects, managing staff. So definitely what I'm saying is leadership can look a lot of different ways for this program. So feel free to apply or ask further questions if you're concerned about your specific CV there.
Thank you, Nancy. Jumping in here with this next one, asking if this program is more for producers, can directors apply as well, and is this more for TV projects in development or features? So answering first the producer piece, the program is geared more towards anyone who wants to become an executive in general. So whether that's in development, producing, directing, writing, if you see yourself kind of running your own company or working at a larger organization, usually that's what this program is geared towards. So overall, yes, producers and directors can apply. We tend to see less creator focused participants come through the program, but we've had a few in the past. And I say that if you have a general interest in learning more about the industry as a whole, especially with the ranked advocates that you're putting forward in your application, and can really make a case as to why you want to learn from them or what you feel like you will take away from that, that will really help your application in general. And also, we don't develop any particular project in this program. It's more so kind of shadowing the role of the executive that you're shadowing in this program. So even if you are developing TV or feature projects, either one is fine, but please keep in mind that certain executives only work in television and certain executives here only work in features. So just keep in mind the advocates that you're putting forward and your background in general.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. That's a really good way of putting it. I think to really hammer it home, the main thing that we're looking for here is for the applicant to consider what their goals are as a part of this program. Definitely directors and creatives can have a good time in the program and gain a lot from it, but the clarity of what your goals are and what how you would achieve that with the advocate that you've put on your application, how you're demonstrating to the selection committee that that is something that you can achieve at this point in this program would be really helpful. And in that way, there are a lot of different folks from a lot of different fields that could be a fit for this program. I'm going to take two sort of similar questions here. Uh, so someone's asking if they're still a university student, can they apply? I think this person is in grad school. And someone else is asking, what if you've just graduated from film school? Can you apply? So we don't bar anyone who's in school. Like that's not in and of itself a constraint. We just do ask that you make sure that you follow the other eligibility pieces there. So would be great for you to be over 19 at the start of the program, for example, and then also experience. I know we've talked a lot about that so far, but to have some experience in leadership roles, again, doesn't need to be professional, can have been in school, can have been in your community, but just looking for some of those skills built in order to make the most out of this program and also having some understanding of the industry as well. You don't need to know everyone in the industry or be super well versed in every aspect of the industry, but we find it is easier if you're not like brand new to the screen industries themselves. Again, you can have had that experience and that knowledge as a recent grad, as someone who's at the end of their film program, but just something to keep in mind there.
Thanks, Nancy. Jumping in with this next one, can you look to shadow advocate number one and give reasons, but if not chosen, give new reasons to be paired with advocate two and three? So I'm assuming this is about the ranking question that we have in our application portal, where you're asked to rank three advocates or three advocate groupings rather that you would like to be paired with and put forward. If possible, we ask that you give reasons in general as to why you would like to be paired with any of those three advocate groups that you put forward, just for the selection committee to get a good understanding of how you plan to learn from any group of them. Of course, the ranking of your number one placement could be the, point that you hit home a little bit harder. But I think if you give us reasons as to how you could be learning from multiple different advocate groupings, we'll give you the best chance of actually succeeding in the program and also give us a good understanding of how you will learn the most from this program overall in general as well.
Thanks so much, Chris. I'll take this next one here. If you're a film producer wanting to get into TV development, would that be a good fit? Or are we only looking for experienced TV producers in this case? So I'm going to generalize this to sort of like if you're crossing over from the film space into the TV space and vice versa, is that okay? And absolutely, there are a lot of transferable skills in this industry. So definitely just make it clear in your application that that's what you're looking to do and how you would use your skills from your previous experience into, in this case, your targeted field, which is TV development. You don't even particularly need to be like what we'd consider an experienced producer to apply. Um, so if you have, some experience that you think feels eligible, feel free to put in an application there. Definitely, definitely don't need like don't limit yourself if you're not like 10 years in the game.
Well said. Thank you. I'm going to try to attempt to answer two questions as well because they kind of go in tandem. So, first one being after the program is said and done, what is the outcome that you hope for participants? And then the second question being, what can we expect from this program? For example, will we be working on projects or will we just be learning from mentors? So, of course, there's no clear-cut definition of success with this program. As you know, the placement with your advocates is essentially a lifelong, hopefully, relationship that you're going to have and someone that can vouch for you and act as a hopeful professional reference that you can use going forward for job applications as well. And just in general in the industry, another contact that goes a long way for you. A lot of other programs may not have placements that are as long as this one, which is 8 months. So that being a point of this program that gives you a lot of time to sit with one or two particular advocates and really build out the journey that you have over a couple of months and developing that relationship together and figuring out what you want to learn about at the beginning, but obviously goals will evolve. So the takeaway from this mainly being that you will dive into a bunch of different topics with our group programming sessions as well when we bring in guest speakers. You get a lot of face time. There's an opportunity usually for participants to also moderate at certain times and also building a community with our alumni network and also the other participants in the program in the same year as you, where we have co-learning sessions. You get to present about a different topic. So there's a lot of different opportunities and different ways you can learn from this program. And even though you're not developing a specific project, that is usually what we point to as the main goal and success of this program.
Thanks so much, Chris. I am gonna grab this one. Essentially, is there feedback if we don't get selected for this year of the program so we can apply in a future year? So yes, I will say there's some nuance around this. So like we mentioned, a lot of the specific feedback that comes back from our selection committees, we do have to keep confidential. So specific notes and scores and potentially identifying feedback, we aren't able to share. There's not like so yeah, we do need to keep some things confidential in that sense. One thing that we've also seen more success in the past for all of our programs is when folks approach us and have a conversation with our team about what might make a strong application for the next year once the rules and regulations are already out for it. So, sorry to clarify what I mean by that is uh, it's usually more effective. We've found that people approach us in this time period, so like January to February, once the rules and regulations are already out for example, this year, 2025, 2026, and our team can help speak to what is different about this year of the program, what we have, like what we would recommend emphasizing in an application, if you have submitted an application in the past, if you have anything you want to add to your CV, or if you want to change any of your answers from previous years. Those are conversations that we find really productive at this stage in the application process. And we're also happy to chat about any specific questions you have about your previous application at that stage. Again, keeping in mind that we can't, there are only so many things that we can reveal about our jury. So we appreciate your understanding on that front.
Thanks, Nancy. Jumping in with this next one, can you give an example of previous participants that have come out of the program and excelled? So, of course, we can point to our website where we have our current cohort who is just wrapping up the program and all of their bios and job descriptions. So you can see who they are on our website. And if you go a bit deeper, there's also an alumni page of all the 3 years prior of who has been in the program with us and their advocates that they've also been paired with. So you can read more about those folks there. And in terms of what they've done after the program, we can point to a lot of successful collaborative relationships that have developed as a result of this program. So a lot of our folks have met other participants in their year or other alumni that they've met through different events that we've held where they've collaborated in different projects. So, for example, producers have found writers, directors, or vice versa, or producers have found other producers to co-produce with. So that's been really nice to see the development of our alumni network in general, also across our other programs, not just exec residency. So that's been nice to see that there's a lot of collaborative relationships outside of this program specifically as well. But also the relationships that they've had with their advocates have also gone a long way. And we've heard a lot of success stories of folks still in contact with their advocates that they've been paired with, or even other advocates that they've just met as a result of their networking. So hearing all of those stories has been really nice to hear, and we can point to that as a result of this program.
Yeah, as frustrating as it is, I think a lot of us know that this industry is sort of a long game of building connections and having like long-term collaborators or a long-term network. So those are some of the most visible examples of how, like, what the product of this program has been that we've been really excited by is the strength of those relationships, the productivity that comes from those relationships, and the length that they've lasted. Okay, cool. We have a French question here. I'm gonna let Corley read it out loud and translate it so that we can listen to a proper French accent.
Thanks, Nancy. Merci d'avoir posé la question en français. Donc, la question est, est-ce qu'il y a une grille d'évaluation? So, Nancy, the question is just asking if it's a specific assessment grade, like a criteria sheet, something specific.
Yeah, for sure. Man, I'm always so nervous that I'm gonna go on a weird slide here. I'm just gonna bring us back to the adjudication slide. This isn't the way that a criteria sheet would look necessarily, but these are the categories that we ask our selection committee to look at, and they are equally weighted. So if that gives you an idea of what they're looking for, and there's none of these are scored like particularly higher than others. So we don't have the exact grid to show you right now, but I think this should summarize that question a little, pretty effectively, hopefully. Corley, if you want to.
Thank you, Nancy. Donc oui, cette page, c'est vrai que je ne l'ai pas faite en français, mais c'est un petit peu, on n'a pas de grille vraiment d'évaluation, mais c'est vraiment les critères sur lesquels on se base, donc la solidité de l'expérience, l'apport à l'industrie, l'adéquation, comme on en a parlé, avec l'accompagnateur, l'accompagnatrice choisie. C'est très important de choisir quelqu'un qui vraiment correspond à ce que vous souhaitez faire. Et les compétences en développement de récit, on a dit que ce n'était pas quelque chose d'obligatoire, mais c'est toujours un plus. Donc, pas vraiment une grille, mais il n'y a pas vraiment un de ces critères qui va compter plus que l'autre. Donc, notre comité qui va juger va un petit peu regarder voilà, ces quatre critères-là. J'espère que ça peut vous aider.
Thanks so much, Corley.
Amazing. Thank you. Anything else on that question before we move on? We're good?
Feel good about it? Feel free to add anything, Chris, if you want.
Nope. All good. Thank you. Next question then is if selected, are applicants expected to develop the original idea they propose, or may they be encouraged or required to adapt it to align with the available time, budget, or guidance provided by the advocate? So once again, just a reminder that this program does not develop a specific project. So in the application, you'll see that there's a lot of questions that ask you about different projects you might have worked on. And for example, the intro video question asks you to describe a project that you've worked on that you're proud of. So feel free to just talk about that project, but otherwise, we are not looking for project ideas in this program or in the application process in general. And in the program, you are not developing a specific project. We ask that you don't pitch anything to our advocates during your time in the program as well. So we rather ask you to describe goals that you have of what you want to learn about the industry or the specific role of the advocate that you are shadowing, and also in the group programming, what different topics you want to learn about or guest speakers you'd like to hear from. So those are kind of more of the goals that we would like you to put forward rather than a specific idea. So just keep in mind that we're not developing anything in this program.
Thanks, Chris. Very helpful to underline that there. I'm actually going to skip a little bit and go to this question. It's not exactly in the order that we're seeing it on our side. Are applicants being evaluated in their ability to choose advocates that make sense to their goals? And how is that being assessed? So totally understand the concern here. What I would characterize this as is that um, if you like, there is some amount of research that we would encourage that applicants do if you're not as familiar with our advocates for this year or any other year. Take a look at what work they've done in the past, where they're at now. Obviously, it makes a lot of sense that folks wouldn't know exactly what each advocate does, and totally want to make some space for that. But certain things like if you can tell that this advocate works primarily in like legal, or on the film side, for example, then and it's very clear in an application that your application is geared toward working in film in the future, or you have interests in legal and business affairs, some of those will be like it will be more productive for an applicant who has those specific goals and wants to work on those specific things, with that advocate for this year. And those are things that you can tell from the advocate's title or from their bios, which are out in the world. And some of our past advocates are also on our website if you want to take a look at their bios there. If you're unclear, I don't think we've ever offered this before, but if you are unclear on, I'm in between these two advocates, I don't know who's a stronger fit for my goals, feel free to reach out to us about that. Happy to demystify it as best as we can. There is also some amount of like just the churn of every year being a little bit different, a different number of folks wanting to work with each advocate will kind of change what it looks like for selection for each of those advocates. So to keep that in mind. But yeah, I think we'd ask you to do a little bit of research on your own, to be clear on your own goals, and to reach out to us if you have anything that you feel like you really can't figure out at that stage of the application process. Anything you want to add on that, Chris?
Yeah, I think very well said, first of all, but I think I would just also add that there's also even some genres that our advocates work in. So, for example, like the CBC folks, some work in drama, some work in comedy. So, if you tend to skew one way or the other, depending on the projects you're working on, that might be a good place to highlight something. And then also, some folks also work in development, some work in production. So, while you might not always be on set or have the opportunity to do so in this program, I think that's another piece that you can highlight as well if you want to go a bit deeper.
Yeah, good point, Chris. So like if you have a genre in mind, or are open to working in something, demonstrate that that's somewhere that you want to grow, even if that's not something that's been on your CV in the past. Same thing for if you want to be in production or if you want to be on the development side. Those are things that are evident in our advocates titles in most cases. And yeah, reach out. We're happy to have the conversation. Okay, thanks, Chris, for adding to that there. I know I've thrown us a little bit off here. I can take the question that I originally took here, which is if someone has a strong academic and professional background but's been out of the workforce for some time, would that be a detriment to their candidacy? Um, definitely don't want to be definitely don't want to be writing anyone off for having been out of the workforce or even out of the industry for some amount of time. Again, people come to this industry, come to any job in a variety of different ways, but particularly, we think there's a real strength to the creative industries where you can bring a lot from a variety of backgrounds into what we do here. So definitely not a detriment. I think that if you have like you've mentioned, previous experience that you can relate to why you're a good candidate for this program in this year, feel free to let us know about those transferable skills or about that unique perspective. Um, and even if there's been a bit of a gap, if you've done anything in that gap that in a like a work CV you might not want to highlight, but it feels like it provides perspective or skills building that could be relevant for this program. Feel free to write that in as well. If you had a gap and you don't want to explain it, that's all good as well. Um, just yeah, feel free to gear your application to whatever skills you can bring to this program, and don't let being out of the workforce for a while stop you.
I can jump in with this next one for now. It's something that I've already kind of addressed earlier. It's the question is, are there some alumni success stories from this program that you can share? Not sure if I can name drop, I guess, some alum, but I think this is public information as well out there. But we do have a pair from year one of our program who met through the program, started working and collaborating on a project together, and received IPF funding. So that's something that is an example I would point to. Like, while of course we don't realistically expect someone to walk out of this program in 1 or 2 years with a job fully from working with an advocate, and that's not realistic at all. We wouldn't call that a success story that we have something we can share yet, of course. Of course, that's always nice to hear if that comes down to it. But I think these other stories that we can point to are more so a realistic expectation of what you can learn to get out of this program and something that you might not expect, for example, where you're learning from an advocate, but you meet someone else in the program or from our alumni network, and you feel like that is actually something more beneficial to where you are currently. I would say that that's one of our success stories that we can share about this program. Nancy, sorry, you muted.
In 2026, how embarrassing. What I'd add to that, Chris, thank you, is that one of the folks in that pairing of participants who started collaborating is still, I think, pretty close with their advocate from the first year and had consulted multiple times with their advocate about many different projects that he felt comfortable like speaking to the advocate about over the years, and has maintained that advocate as a source of mentorship and advice throughout all of the projects, including this project that has been collaborated on. So yeah, really exciting that that avenue of support was still maintained from this program. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Brittany.
This, thank you. And thanks for calling me out for being on mute. I think it would have been well within reason for you to allow me to keep embarrassing myself for as long as it took for me to notice that. Okay, so I will read this question here. What if there's no advocate that makes sense for what the applicant is looking for? Maybe the advocate works in some genres that one is not interested in. Will the program assign a different advocate? And there's a couple of different aspects to this answer here. So, first of all, if it really feels like there's no advocate that you as an applicant want to work with for this year, we do usually get some different new advocates throughout the years. So maybe this is not a year that looks super interesting to an applicant. That's totally okay. Maybe a better match will come up in a different year. Um, it is also possible, and it has happened in the past. So this kind of addresses a previous question that we got, that if it feels like, an application is really strong, and maybe did they were like maybe just a little bit off in their assessment of whether an advocate would be a good fit for them. So they've maybe not selected an advocate that would be a good fit for them this year. There will be a little bit of back and forth. We'll do a little bit of consultation with the advocate side of things, and possibly even with the applicant, to see if a different match that year than they expected might be a good fit. So that has happened in the past. Usually that assignment doesn't happen without notifying the applicant at all, so it will be a bit of a dialogue. Um, and I think that's actually it. I thought I had a third point. Was there anything I missed there, Chris? You feel?
Nope, not at all.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Um, Nancy, not sure which question you want to take next.
Yeah, sorry, just catching up here. Okay, so I see one here that says can permanent residents but not citizens living in Canada apply to the program? Uh yeah, for sure. If you're a permanent resident by the time of the start of the program, which is June 2026 for this year. If you need an exact date for any reason, if anyone's in a position where they need an exact date, feel free to contact us about that. But permanent residents and citizens are eligible to apply. And that's that. I don't know if anyone else has any questions for us. We have 8 more minutes here. We will not hold you hostage if there are no further questions for this year. But giving you all a minute here if you want to type anything else out in the Q&A section. Just go to the thank you slide for now. Um, I don't know, Corley and Chris, if you have anything else you want to add about this, I will just say if any other questions come to anyone else in the audience right now and you want to send us an email, it's programs@academy.ca. Always happy to answer there. We got a couple last minute questions, so that's awesome. Um, but yeah, always feel free to reach out. And again, this will be posted on our YouTube channel for anyone who wants to review this and any sort of novel questions that we haven't addressed in previous years or in our existing uh, information that's on the website, we'll put into the FAQ. Chris, do you want to take
Yep, I
the
can
questions
jump
here?
in. One question says, what is the main thing an applicant should really take into account on this application? And of course, that varies from candidate to candidate, but I think just showing the selection committee who you are, what you've worked on so far in your career, what you really want to get out of the program, I feel like is a big thing that in general try to weave into all of your answers throughout the application. I feel like today we've really hit home how the fit with the preferred advocate is a main piece of the program, which it is. But I think also just telling us in general what you want to learn, even if not from this program, but in the long run of where you see yourself in 5 or 10 years and what you feel like the trajectory of your career is heading towards, or you feel like you want to aim towards, whether or not you've had a bunch of experience in the industry or whether you've pivoted and left the industry, for example. I think just giving us a good sense of your own story in general and who you are will really make you stand out, and I think will help the selection committee get a good understanding of why you feel like right now is the time for you to do this program.
Thanks, Chris. That's a really good point. Something that I am surprised that I haven't shoehorned into this info session this year already is that this is not a job application. So, like Chris is saying, it's really helpful for the selection committee to get to know the applicant as a part of the application package, and also going really clear about what your goals are as a part of this program. To make sure that everybody on all sides of this program are making the most of the opportunity and making sure that, this is a good year for you to be in the program, that if you are selected into the program, that the program can deliver and help support what your goals actually are. So the clearer you are about what you want to achieve, the easier it is for the selection process and the clearer it is for everyone on the selection committee. Thank you so much. I think I am going to. Okay, I'll go to this next question. I thought it was like a fun one to end on, but now we have a couple other questions. So if you don't feel like this is the right time for you, can you do this program in the future? For sure. If you feel like it's not like a good fit for you for this year of the program, don't feel pressured to put in an application. I think sometimes that's also a really hard application to put together if you don't feel like you're ready and you're not super clear on what your goals are at the moment. So definitely feel free to wait. Again, we do reassess the programs across our team every year, so things may look a little bit different every year, but we'll be able to announce future programs likely at the top of the year next year.
I
Cool.
will just quickly add that if you don't feel like it's entirely the time yet, but you still feel like it could be, we always welcome you to apply. But like I said, no pressure. But the program is there. So if you would like to apply, feel free. And the next question here is, let's say you don't have a lot of experience, can you still apply? I have done a little bit of screenwriting and want to learn more about screenwriting. So we have had some writer directors in the past, and while the focus of this program is not exactly project development, like I've already mentioned, or screenwriting in general, of course, that's a topic that you could explore in this program. We haven't typically had a lot of sessions of group programming that focus mainly on screenwriting. We have brought in writer directors and creators, for example, that focus on more so the relationship between creators and executives and working with networks or broadcasters when developing projects and show running, for example. But I think if you want to develop screenwriting, I think that ties a little bit more into development. So if you want to maybe explore that relationship with advocates there, but as a reminder, we don't encourage anyone to pitch in this program. So if you are looking to develop your own project, I think the way to approach that is to learn more about how you can really approach that from the producing side and how you can help elevate, tell other people's stories, not just your own. So that's the angle that I would say to approach that application with. But I think even if you have a bit of experience, still apply. I would encourage you to try out for the program no matter what. But that's my answer for that. Nancy, anything else?
Yeah, I'll tack on a little bit there, echoing Chris that absolutely if you feel you don't have the amount of experience that we've put in this slide deck, but you still think you're a good fit for the program, always feel free to apply. Don't like the number requirement stop you from putting in that application. And I think that Chris put it very positively about what we do offer in this program here. One thing I will say, just to be explicit about this again, there are no aspects of the program in the past that have been offered that are about like technical screenwriting or technical directing. So if what you're looking for is a screenwriting program that helps you with like the technical side of writing, this might not be the thing that you're looking for at this point in your career. This is a really good example of like being really clear about the goal. It's something that we haven't historically been able to serve as a part of this program because it has been more geared toward that sort of executive or development side of things. So we just want to make sure that any applicants are are actually supported by the program. We don't want to have any of our participants have a bad time in the program and not get what they need. Cool. Thank you. This question, if I've started my own business and it's a small business with a small team and you want mentorship from executives, does that bar you from the program? Not at all. If you have like a small business, I think maybe the gist of this question is if I own a business, am I overexperienced for the program? Again, we'd encourage you to look at what your goals are for this program if you feel that you're at a level where on paper you own a business, or on paper you have, not enough experience, but the person that you're looking to enter like this advocate mentorship relationship with is the right person to speak to what your goals are for the next step of your career, definitely put in an application. I think there's no sort of by the book correct career stage that you need to be in. So feel free to apply if it still sounds interesting to you.
Thank you, Nancy. Jumping with this next one, where can we find this recording? So we've mentioned it earlier, but in case you missed it, this recording will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, Canadian Academy YouTube channel rather. And so even if you want to refer to our older info sessions with some a little outdated information, I would say, so that is already up there, but otherwise this should be uploaded within the next few days or so. So if you just give us some time, we'll get this up there and you will have that as a reference point.
Thanks, Chris. I think I might take one last question because I know we're up at 4:30 Eastern, and want to make sure that folks can get to where they're going. Feel free if there's anything super important that you folks want to add here as well in these last couple of minutes. But I'll say this one is the selection committee taking into account regionality from like non-Ontario, non-Quebec provinces? Yeah, absolutely. We very much welcome applications that come from across the country, from the territories, from Maritimes and both coasts, from BC, prairies. I'm just like naming parts of Canada. Yeah, absolutely. If you're in non-Ontario, non-Quebec, not outside of the hubs, you're very welcome to put in an application. We definitely look to try to support all of the folks in this industry. and keeping in mind that region is one of the challenges that folks in Canada can come up against depending on where they've built their career. So definitely feel free to apply if you are not from Ontario or Quebec. Absolutely. Okay, cool. On that note, if we're feeling good about it, team, then I just want to thank everyone who joined us for today's info session and asked great questions. Again, feel free to reach out to us again via email at programs@academy.ca if you have anything else that you want to check in about, and we can see you in the emails for now.
Sounds great. Thank you everyone for joining and looking forward to another year of the program.
Thank you all so much.
Merci beaucoup.